PSGL, George Morgan here and Jack Pinat. All the lights are currently lit here on track, and it is go, go, go!
Down between the Mercedes teammates.
Denoso with a crafty manoeuvre up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not count out Danny Berezne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Foreman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
Here we are then. Good evening and welcome everyone. After 1 week of break, we are back with a round 6 where it's time for Monaco. I'll be your host tonight here at PSGL PCF4. My name is BitSky and joined, as per usual, I'm here with Max.
Hello everybody. Pleasure to be back after a week away. And it should be an eventful evening tonight. We are at Monaco. A very interesting track to have on the calendar. And hello, Myth. Well, welcome back after this week break. How are you on this Thursday evening?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm very excited to have a couple of nice races now coming up before we have our winter break, because next week we've got Silverstone, then it's my home Grand Prix at Zandvoort, so we've got a couple of good races coming up, and I think today, Monaco, the crown jewel in the Principality, it's always a race that excites many. I've already heard a couple of the drivers mention that they don't feel too comfortable around in qualifying, so they will have to make sure to keep it out of the wall. And then in the race, 39 laps, going to be a very, very long sit, and the drivers will need to stay focused at all times, because one slight mistake, you end up in the wall, and then it's race over.
Yeah, it certainly is. Of course, this circuit's going to have the most important qualifying session of the season, really. Of course, Monaco's such a tight track, so difficult to overtake around this circuit. So qualifying going to be oh so important. So you can't afford to put it into the wall early. You have to make sure you get those lap times on the board. But yeah, it's going to be an eventful race this evening. I'm expecting a safety car. If we don't get one, props to the drivers that are racing this evening, because, as I said, very close to the walls, very easy just to make that slight mistake, especially through the final sector where you're going so aggressive through the swimming pool chicane and then into the chicane afterwards. That's very easy. Just clip a wall ever so slightly, take off your front wing or your front tyre, and that is you out of the race. Easy to invalidate at some corners as well, knowing the Saint-Devote and also down at the Nouvelle chicane. They are two hotspots for the lap invalidations in qualifying and where you can pick up penalties in the main Grand Prix. But yeah, a very interesting race ahead. The drivers have said the two drivers we need to look out for, at least in qualifying, Campbell Adams and Alexander Dimas. Those two drivers in the championship fight. So we could maybe see a few twists to this championship tale, can't we, Myth?
We perhaps might see that. Yeah, Dimas currently in third. Second is for Campbell Adams. He started the season as a reserve driver, but has now been promoted to full-time seat at Williams. And we still have championship leader Exa Fox in the Aston Martin also competing. Could have had a bigger gap. It's only 9 points now, but due to some penalties in 2 races that he did win on track, did not win after penalties were applied. So for Exafox, it's more of a case of make sure to keep it clean. You have the pace, win it out on track, fair and square, and then you're going to pull away more. But he needs more of that consistency. Well, he needs to be more consistent on that aspect if he wants to try and get the title. In the meantime, we are loading in to our short qualifying here at Monaco. 18 minutes the game will give us, so that should be enough for 4 hot laps from the drivers. And just around every corner, there's so much to look out for. 19 corners in total. Every corner's got a beautiful French name to it that would be lovely for us to pronounce as well and refer to. And I believe we have pretty much a full grid tonight. I think we had 19 drivers. We have 18, so one of the drivers might join us in a moment. And for now, the weather seems fine, Max.
Yeah, it certainly does. Seems to be quite clear skies above this magnificent street circuit and the harbour beside it. So drivers, as you can see in the pit lane, all trying to come out at the same time. Track position is going to be absolutely key around this track. Of course, 20 cars around this very tiny circuit, actually smaller than FIA regulations, but of course, it's Monaco. You've got to let it off. To have 1/3 of the Triple Crown on the calendar, that's another thing at stake here this evening. Not only do you win and you get yourself some 25 points, you get 1/3 of the sim racing Triple Crown. Of course, you've got the Indy 500 and the Le Mans 24 Hour to go with it, but you get the Monaco Grand Prix under your belt, and that is a title you will want to have. So, first driver out on the circuit is going to be Gabriel Pinto in the Haas. So, he'll be the first driver to attempt the challenges of this Monaco circuit. You can see how tight it really is heading through Lower Mirabeau and Portier. But this circuit, it's such a challenge on the drivers. It's so entertaining to watch. And not only is it the toughest, the most important qualifying, it probably will be the best qualifying of the season here, Myth.
It will definitely be one of the best qualifying sessions. And just to add to everything that you've been mentioning about the Triple Crown, next year, because Monaco, of course, had a renewed deal a couple of weeks ago, but the race is going to be changed a little bit so that it doesn't, overlap with the Indy 500 anymore, which means that some drivers might feel the need in a season or two to try and compete in both. As we have Gabriel Pinto starting his lap. Let's hop on board with him as he makes his way through Masnat Casino before he's going to brake into Mirabeau. That's turn 5 towards the right. A little bit safe for now as he's heading towards the hairpin. He's trying to keep it smooth. That was a pretty decent hairpin for turning it into the second Mirabeau. And then through Poitiers into the tunnel. That will be turn 9 in a moment. That is right over here before he's going to brake into the Nouvelle chicane 10 and 11, which we find right here. Now he's going to make his way down to the third sector. First it's Tabac. Then we will see Sector 2 come to an end through Louis Chiron, through Piscine, where you really need to hug the wall tight. And Gabriel does so quite nicely. Through Raskas, slightly overshoots there. And through Anthony Nagy goes. Final corner, 19 complete. He's going to come across the line in a 1:07.7. But we've seen, Max, in F3, your pole lap time was a 1:06.608. And that, I don't think we're going to come too close to. But that does show that there's at least quite something to still improve on.
There certainly is, until, Adam Schumer has unfortunately crashed on the exit of the Nouvelle chicane, so Monaco already taking its first victim. Alexander Dimas with a 1:07.1. That puts him 3 temps clear at the top from Campbell Adams. Times now coming in thick and fast. Kai moving himself up into 3rd. That was Paulo Alfonso moving into 10th with a 9.0. He's a little bit off the pace compared to everybody else. Teo Boons now heading on the lap. Actually, I think João Piena is just a little bit further round in the V-Carb as he's heading into Raskas now and heading up into Anthony Nose. So with DRS open for the V-Carb. Of course, this DRS straight doesn't really have too much of an effect in the race, but still can provide an overtaking opportunity into Zandvoort. And Zhao goes into ninth. So as we look back at Tailboons also now going in to Anthony Knows, DRS open for Teo. What's it going to be for him? And he goes to 12th place. So second slowest so far. Of course, drivers still building their momentum, still finding time, finding their feet in this session, getting used to the circuit. And that is going to be oh so important come the end of the session. And track evolution also going to be a key factor.
Yeah, and that will help the drivers to try and push under that 107, although at the moment it looks like one of the few drivers that will be able to do so is Alexander Dimas. XFox does make sure that he keeps it close. I think a top 5 in qualifying would be very good for him. By the moment, at least in the first round, looks like Dimas is quite a bit quicker than everyone else. 2.5 tenths in your first run is quite a bit. Giovanni Lanzoni is about to start his. In the meantime, we also heard a comment from Adam Schumer who says, I did the thing, and then the fire emoji. Paulo Afonso also mentioning, yeah, this is going to go well. So he's really feeling it tonight. So far, set a 1:09.0, which is almost 2 seconds off the pace, as Lanzoni now makes his way through Mirabeau Holt, which is right over here, before making his way through the Grand Hotel Hairpin. That's a big slide, and that's not the best start of first laps, but then again, he has enough time still to work with. Just over 12.5 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, still plenty of time in this session for drivers to get lap times on the board. Lanzoni heading into the Nouvelle chicane now. Of course, no lap time so far, but as he heads on the exit of Nouvelle, that was very nice, very close to that outside wall as he's heading into the back now, using all the circuit he possibly can, really just flinging the car through the corners here is Lanzoni, and too much through the second part of the swimming pool, and that's really going to cost him, and it's given him some front wing damage. So through Anthony Knows and also Raskat, going to be a little bit of understeer thanks to the limited downforce on that car. Down the straight we go with Lanzoni. He goes up into the top 5 though, a very respectable lap time from the Williams man. Lucas Basner has just started his next run in this session, heading down now into Mirabeau, braking late. Make sure you don't lock up too much into the corners. That will affect your run. Into the Hotel Hairpin, a little bit deep into there. That's going to affect his momentum all the way through Lower Mirabeau and into Portier as well. So a big slide as he gets on the power. That's going to really affect his run down into the Nouvelle chicane. Been a very scrappy middle sector so far for Lucas Basler as he heads now into Nouvelle, braking late over that sausage curb. Use all the circuit you possibly can, get as close to the orange marking on that barrier as you can, through to back as he sets a 50.1 in that middle sector. Now into the final part of the lap, another big hit of the wall once again from another driver, this one being Basner, as he's heading up into the final corner. Make sure you use all the circuit on exit, don't clip that outside curb. DRS open, keep it as close to that right hand side as possible. Basner, that lap's still good enough for the top 5, but we did see there's plenty of time in it.
Yeah, we saw though that he was 2 tenths down on Lanzoni's time in the second sector and still manages to go half a tenth quicker. So that last sector from Beisner really was a good one, and there's enough to improve for him throughout the rest. But for Dimas, he set a 17.9 the first sector, 35 thousandths of a second quicker in sector 1 as he's now making his way through the Nouvelle chicane, and he is looking quick. He's looking to cut through this track like butter, as it's a really nice entry into Tabak. He's a 10.5 up on his own personal best. A great run through the swimming pool chicane as well. Slightly overshoots in Raskas. That might cost him a little bit, but he is getting awfully close to the 106s already. Meadow goes second fastest, and its best lap so far for Dimas. Loses just a hint in that final sector. But I think the next run, Max, if he keeps it clean, he's going to dive into the 106s.
Oh, 100% Dimas. Just seeming to be on a whole nother level so far this evening. And that could exactly be the difference between him maybe taking the championship lead, or at least slicing XFox's championship lead down to a handful of points come the end of this race. XFox, of course, championship leader, currently sitting in 6th place, so he's still on for a decent qualifying so far. Who is next on a lap? I think it's Yerne Dovsvan heading... Actually, no, I think he's validated that previous lap, so don't think he's going for another run on this one. It does look like it will be Tail Boons actually in the Red Bull, of course. Second slowest so far are the drivers that we've had set lap times. So as he heads through the first sector, he's down on his lap time by nearly half a tenth, and Dozfan has now crashed at the Nouvelle chicane. So the Nouvelle has taken 2 victims so far. Lanzoni crashes on the exit of Massenet. That's a confusing place to go. Obviously has looped it on the power, and for Giovanni Lanzoni, 10th place is the best he can start. So 3 victims of this circuit. Lanzoni up in Massenet, and then Schummer and Dozfan in the Nouvelle chicane. So that's 3 retirements so far in this qualifying session, all through driver error. Teo Boons up by 3 tenths in the middle sector. This can promote. This actually won't promote him up any places. He needs to find a whole second to even get close to Zhao Piena, who is behind him currently on the road. So for the Red Bull DRS Open, what would it be for him? He's got Zhao right behind him in this final sector. Yao actually goes up to 4th place with 7.4. A brilliant lap time there from Yao to put himself from 14th to 4. A 10-place improvement over the course of that lap. Teo managed to get down to the 8.1s, but still 2 tenths behind Dennis Langrock. And for Teo and Paulo Alfonso, it is not looking like a very good qualifying session so far, with Alfonso now out on his next outlap.
Yeah, we saw Teo was already down a second on the lap that Dimas was doing after the first 2 sectors. His last sector was quite good, gained a lot there, but his first run did make quite a mistake there. And now kept it clean there as Kai flies with a slide through Sandefot. Just manages to keep it on track. That almost looked like a Perez crash heading into the wall, but he keeps it out of it as he now comes through Massenet and Casino. Again, a big moment on exit of Casino, and it's already cost him 2 tenths, but that does show how quick Kai is in that first sector, because his fastest lap time is a match to what Dimas has been able to do on his second run. So Kai definitely has the pace in the first sector, but will need to improve, and most likely in the second sector. He did get a little bit of a sloppy exit, and he's not full throttle anymore, so he has aborted this lap. He's not going to continue, at least for now. And we do see Exafox coming through, who is trying to go forward. Let's see how quick he's going to be through to back. 49.6 is what we're aiming for. Touches the wall there quite a bit, and he's half a second off of Dimas already, and that is pretty much the time that he still needs to find. So I don't think this will be much of an improvement by Exafox. He will complete the lap though through Anthony Nagy goals. Keeps that clean there, maybe half a tenth in it, and indeed half a tenth it is. He does move up a place, but still finds himself in P6.
Yeah, championship leader stays in, well, from 6th place after being demoted by Zhao earlier on. Basner now moves himself up into 8th place. Who else is coming up to the line? I think that's Gottschalk on his outlap. Then it is the Aston Martin of Alfonso. Where can he go from 16th? He actually was 6.4 seconds down, so he aborted his previous run. What about Alexander Dimas? He's on his next lap. He's currently heading through the Nouvelle chicane, and as soon as I flip to him, he has unfortunately invalidated, so not the greatest of laps here from Dimas. And he was up by an extra 2 tenths of a second. Alexander Dimas, if he's able to hook up that Nouvelle chicane on his final run, we could see him maybe even dip into the 8.7s. That just shows how much pace he has left in the tank. Menno de Beva now heading up to the line. He needs to find 3 tenths to get close enough to Dimas. Was up by half a tenth in the middle sector. Was able to find a tenth through the final. And he stays in second, but cuts that gap down in half, to about a tenth of a second. Kai now up into second. That is just behind Alexander Dimas by 4 thousandths. Campbell Adams is now on a lap coming out of Anthony Nose. Oh, a big slide there. That's not going to help his run at all. Alessandro Finn now goes up into second place. Campbell Adams stays in 5th. But for Alessandro Finn, that's another big lap. He's only 8 thousandths behind Alexander Dimas. So very close between Dimas and Finn. And we know Kai, I know Finn's now in second, but we know the McLarens, usually Kai, is quite quick in qualifying. And around a track like Monaco, where race pace isn't really everything, for someone like Kai, who struggled ever so slightly in the races when they started so high up, this could be a track where it could gain Kai some momentum and maybe some key experience fighting at the front.
Yeah, they've had some pretty good runs there. We saw that Alessandro had a little bit of a moment coming out of Piscine, so there might still be more in the bag, and with only 8,000 separating him and Dimas, means there is more in it, but we know that Dimas has quite a few more tens in his hand if he can string it together on his final run. We're currently watching Theo Bulns as he's making his way through to back, and he's on for a pretty decent run as well. 3.5 tenths up on his own best lap time so far, and that would be enough for at least 2 positions gained if he doesn't gain any more in that final sector. Does overshoot there through Raskas, so I'm not sure if it will be an improvement that too much, but might get a few places here. From 16th to 14th he goes indeed. Only by 18 thousandths on Paulo Afonso, but does make that nice improvement. Now just needs to make sure he brings it back in time, but with 3 minutes and 35 seconds left, there should be ample of opportunity for him to do yet another run. Lighty in the meantime has started this run, and after Lighty completes, Dimas is already out on track for his final run.
He certainly is. So Dimas going for that track position and maybe thinking if he makes a mistake like he did on the previous attempt, he will have time to back off and go again, and that could be crucial, especially with Alessandro, Finn and Kai breathing down his neck. So for Lighty, heading out of Portier now and into the tunnel, we'll see what he's able to do. He actually clouts the wall on the left-hand side through the tunnel, so not the best line through there. That will affect his momentum heading down into the braking zone, but still nicely done through the Nouvelle chicane. Now through to back, a few stabs at it, slides the rear of the car. That's not going to help him at all. If he has picked up any minor front wing damage, he's head through the second part of the swimming pool chicane, a bit deep on the brakes into Raskas, and he's aborted that one coming into the pit lane. That will have to be a quick turnaround for the Alpine crew, but Alexander Dimas now, the man who has led all of this session so far, currently sitting 5th in the standings. A win tonight can really propel him up into that title fight. And actually, no, surprisingly here, Myth, he's going for 2 warm-up laps. So maybe thinking 1 warm-up lap isn't enough. And if he's able to get that extra temperature into the tyres, we're able to go even quicker than that 2 temps he originally found.
Yeah, I was already wondering why he went on the power so late coming out of turn 19, but he's indeed going for an extra warm-up lap. Not sure that is going to be the key to win it tonight, but it's definitely something that if he feels he should try it, that he should try that. But this means that Beisner will be the first one to attempt his final run. We've got a minute 45 left on the clock. Drivers now need to come out. That is some front wing damage. A front wing end plate gone for Beisner. And that's pretty much his lap all done for. He's still going to continue for now, but he's going to lose a lot of time in that first sector already. Having a little bit of a moment out, Casino as well has already lost a second, so that is qualifying over for Beisner. Behind him, it looks like Daniel Gottschalk and Campbell Adams have started their runs. And they, well, there's one of the Red Bulls trying to get actually gotten past there. It looks like Gottschalk has also aborted, so he won't improve. Campbell Adams then, he's already down 6 tenths in that first run, so he's not improving, but he might still have time to go for another run, and I think he'll be saving up a bit as well. Quite a few drivers, looks like, Max, are going for a second warm-up lap.
It does seem so maybe just thinking that the tyres just can't get into that correct window, and massive. The Dimas, one of those drivers who tried those 2 warm-up laps, he's now on his final push lap, up by 22 hundredths through the first sector, clouts the inside wall there at Mirabeau, and this lap seeming actually really scrappy in this middle sector so far. So now heading through Lower Mirabeau and into Portier, all about getting the power out nice and gently through here. Extra Fox has retired from the session. I think that was in the pit lane, so wasn't able to improve on his lap. He starts the best of 7th. So now heading into the Nouvelle chicane with Alexander Dimas, the man currently on provisional pole, and once again invalidates at the Nouvelle chicane, and this time will not have enough time to get to the line to start another run. Alessandro Finn stays second. He's still in the pit lane. Kai getting it all wrong through the Nouvelle chicane as well. Maybe the pressure just getting to
Menno's
the McLaren.
up 3 tenths.
Who's up by 2 tenths? Menno.
Heading 3.
Heading into Raskas. This could be absolutely crucial here for the Ferrari. He took the win in Canada. Can he get the pole position here this evening? DRS Open on his return from the break. And no, just misses out. slightly lost a bit of time in that final sector. Just look how close that top three are. Campbell Adams is on a lap now, and he's Williams. There's some more drivers heading through on their final push laps. One of them being Basner, who's invalidated, so it will be Campbell Adams to be one of the next cars to cross the line. He's up by 2/10 in that middle sector. If he's able to find some time in his final part of the lap, this could be pole position here from Campbell Adams, the man challenging Exafox, the closest competitor to the championship leader. His rival starts in 8th. Where can Campbell Adams go here in the Principality? He goes to pole with a 6.906. Campbell Adams brought that lap out from the depths, and that is a royal lap here in the Principality. Take a bow, Campbell Adams. What a lap at the end of the session to put yourself onto pole position and to give yourself the best advantage possible to your championship rival behind.
Yeah, we just saw Lighty get a lap through, at least if he had not invalidated. If his lap was not invalidated, he wouldn't have been 16th, he would have been in 6th. So he must be gutted with that performance. I think for Dimas as well, 2 times invalidating when he was on for an improvement. He can do more, but didn't show it tonight. Alessandro Finn and Menno de Beve, the Ferraris, getting so close to the lap time by Dimas. But the one man that did manage to put it all the way together is Campbell Adams, the only driver to dive into the 106s. And with a 106.9, he's pretty much matching his own personal best, only a 10th off of that, at least of what we heard today. So a great run by him. And with his nearest championship competitor down in 9th, Campbell Adams could make a big jump here tonight, because Exafox, as you can see, the Aston Martin P9 just behind Gabriel Pinto. But your top 10 is as follows, with Campbell Adams on pole, Dimas starting beside him. Row 2 is all Scarlet Ferrari, Alessandro Finn, Menno de Beve. Then it's Kai and Theo Bones, followed by Joao Piana and Gabriel Pinto. And your 5th run to close off your top 10, Exafox and Lucas Beisner.
That was a very, very eventful qualifying session, and for Campbell Adams to do it the way he has, to put it on pole, that will feel so sweet here in qualifying. And now into the race, he has the upper hand. All he has to really do, defend from Alexander Dimas into turn 1, and then try streak clear through the rest of the race. But that is easier said than done around a circuit like Monaco. We'll have, I think it's 39 laps here this evening. Yeah, 39 laps for the drivers to contest with. And Myth, that does take quite a mental toll on the drivers, those 39 laps, because, of course, it's such a tight and twisty circuit that you don't really get a break from the corners. It's certainly going to be a challenge to keep your mental strength up.
It will be quite the challenge for them to keep their mental strengths up. So it will be for us. And as for you guys watching the race here tonight, because there'll be action all over the place. So before we go into all of that, we're going to take a quick break. Alright, so here we are once again then, just now back after that qualifying session where it looked like all the way through Alexander Dimas was going to be your pole sitter, but he gets pipped at the end by Campbell Adams, the man 2nd in the standings. And talking about standings, I think it's well time for you guys to have a look at that with us. Stands in front of us, we can see Exafox leading the championship, but starting from P9 in Monaco might make that a little bit harder to defend, especially with Campbell Adams, who's only 9 points down on pole position. Then we have Kai in 3rd, followed by Lighty. They're on equal points, 32. Then we find Dimas in 5th, thought it was up a little bit higher, but after that penalty that was applied in Qatar, he dropped from 7th to 10th. So that has cost him the 3rd place in the standings, at least for now. Then following close by is Bogdan Moldovan. He got the win out there on Qatar with a great final lap. Then Scott Shack on 26. and Isaac lead on 25. And after that, the gaps are going to increase ever so more. Although Menno de Bevo, who is now also in the second row, does have 16 points to his name, but that's all from that one golden race in Canada where he managed to win it. And Max, if I'm looking at the standings like this, I just remembered something that we talked about last time out. We've had 5 races so far, but we've had 5 different winners. We've had Exafox in round 1, Gottschalk in 2, 3 goes to lead, 4 was Menno, and last time out, Bogdan Moldovan. Could Campbell Adams make it 6 tonight?
He certainly could. I mean, he's in the best place to do it, and arguably the best track in pole and do it at. So for Campbell Adams, that chance of making it 6 different winners from the first 6 races. We're on for a 2012-esque season, may I add, with all these race winners in this first few rounds. He can really bring that title challenge. I mean, he's got 3 podiums so far, a 2nd place in Australia, 3rd place in Belgium, and a 2nd place in Canada. So if he's able now to get a win here in Monaco, in the Principality, this is the key point of the season for all of these drivers, not even the ones that are in these championship battles, but the ones that want to cement themselves into it, get into that fight. This race and Silverstone, I would say, are the cut-off races. If you are not anywhere near the championship battle by the end of Silverstone, you can kiss your championship chances goodbye. So, yeah, for Campbell Adams, if he's able to lead heading into the next round of the standings, he certainly could make himself a big threat and give him a good boost heading into the final few races, because being at the top of the championship at that point is damage control. You don't have that pressure of having to just stay in front constantly of the other cars. It's just chip away at a few points, and if you're able to hold on, perfect.
And that is exactly the case. So now we've talked about Monaco a little bit, but let's zoom in on the track map and give you a bit more information about the track where we're racing tonight. So for tonight, the Monaco Grand Prix, 3.337 kilometers, 2074 miles with 19 corners, 1 DRS zone, detection at turn 17, the zone on the main straight. Now 19 corners have a name tonight, and this is also one of the tracks. Until this year, only 1 driver from Monaco had been able to win the race. That is Louis Chiron, after which turns, out of my head, 14 and 15 are named just before the swimming pool section. But after this year, of course, Charles Leclerc joins that stat and makes it 2 Monegasque's winner in total. But Monaco is as a track where so many unique things have happened. Twice in history of F1, it's been the race with the least amount of cars finishing the race. 2 times, only 4 drivers managed to cross the finish line. The last one being in '96, I believe, where Olivier Panis managed to win it. And between the years of, I believe it was 84 and 93, only 2 different drivers managed to win the Grand Prix. Between Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost. Prost won it 4 times, and Senna, who's won it, I believe 6 times in a row, which is quite unique as well. And then, as you mentioned before, of course, Max, Monaco being one of the Triple Crowns, along with the Indy 500 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which actually is quite a nice event to go through. And I've seen, I know this is not something that is related to us, but I've seen like the ticket prices for like a weekend pass for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and it's actually, compared to F1, really, really affordable, and I think I should consider going there in the coming years.
Yeah, I think I did look at it for I think it was next year's event, and I saw like for the whole race like weekend of Saturday Sunday, it's only like €100 depending on where you sit, and I think it can go as low as €50 per person. So it's really affordable. I like racing series like that. I mean, you've got WEC, which is top tier motorsport all around the world, and you can still get it for €50 per person. So if that's 2 of you going, that's only €100 you're spending. Compared to F1, you're looking at over £1,000 for 2 people. So yeah, it's really
Silverstone, yeah.
yeah, for Silverstone, it's exactly what I paid, over 1,000. So yeah, it's really, really affordable, and you've still even got like at your local circuits racing, say like the British touring cars over here in the UK. 30 quid a person to go and watch a brilliant day's action. So yeah, F1, it may be the pinnacle of motorsport, but one thing it doesn't do well are the ticket prices. But off that topic, now heading into the race, strategy going to be a big factor here this evening, probably the biggest factor in this race. And I'm not actually too sure on the strategy. I think you can take the softs quite away through Monaco. This is the first Monaco race I've done on this game. The last one I did was 23, but we're about to get underway, so Myth, wait for the lights.
Yes, and we've just switched in time with the lights going off. We already have a yellow in Sector 3, but that should not matter too much as Langrock moves up a place, and Campbell Adams comes off the block flying, and he's immediately got half a tenth onto Dimas. Beister now has gone past Exafox. He's dropped another position. Schumer has dropped down one as well, as Gottschalk and Lead are fighting with one another for P13, going side by side through the casino and heading down towards Mirbeau. And look at that ascend down the inside from Gottschalk. Gets very, very close to Dennis Langrock up ahead, trying to go round the outside. And we almost have a little bit of a traffic jam coming out there as he's still down the inside. But now getting through Poitiers, he is still on the inside and in the tunnel, might be able to get that overtake done on Langrock. Let's go on board with him. It's very close. They almost make contact in the tunnel. He will need to brake early, and that allows Langrock to push through the inside. That's Paulo Afonso who has to move to the side. Then there's some problems on exit. Daniel Gottschalk almost queued up. They almost, they make a little touch. But Gottschalk keeps it out of the wall. Almost carnage on the first lap already. They do keep it tight and nicely there. But look at the top of the field. Campbell Adams, 1.3 seconds ahead of Alexander Dimas.
Putting those soft tyres to good use there is Campbell Adams and his Williams are already a second and a half clear of Alexander Dimas. Of course, a good result for these two this evening can really help their championship chances, especially Campbell Adams. Of course, 9 points behind. This will give him a nice and healthy championship lead as things stay as they are. I mean, look at the gap between Pinto and Lucas Beister after all that went on. That gap, 3.4 seconds already. And look at Exafox really pushing the Mercedes through into the Hotel Hairpin and into Lower Mirabeau. No damage on either Beisner and Exafox. Gottschalk and Isaac Leet did pick up some front wing damage and all that. I think Giovanni Lanzoni as well has lost a front wing end plate, so that's not the greatest of race starts for those three drivers. Yone Dosvan has fallen behind Lighty. I don't know if that's due to any lag or just overall not got too much pace heading out to Portier. He is seeming to be struggling ever so slightly, is Yone, so maybe those hard tyres. Just being so slow around this circuit, of course, with it being quite low tyre wear, and you're having to put a lot of load through the tyres for the hards. They're not really going to be in the best window for this circuit because it's mainly corner predominant, and the hards not the best around the corners, very sluggish. So the mediums and the softs are really the ones you want to be hit on this evening. And Campbell Adams hasn't made as much of a gap over the previous lap. So is Alexander Dimas just finding his feet at the early stage of this Grand Prix?
I would be really, really afraid if I was Campbell Adams. He only gained 2 tenths on Campbell Adams the last round, but in turn Dimas gained over 8 tenths on Alessandro Finn behind. Dimas has got some amazing pace on those mediums, and despite them being 2 laps old, he already seems to be quicker than the man in front of him who's on softs. Dimas has got some amazing race pace here tonight, and I think without like any safety cars or weird strategy calls, he will be the man to beat here tonight because he seems so quick. Campbell Adams already in? Is that damage? That is so early, but I think he's realized he's losing time to Dimas, so he has to try something else. It's damage?
No, it's not.
No, he just switches to hards. He keeps it for now. I want to see his front wing end plate looks nice, so it is strategy-wise. It's no damage indeed. It's a very early pit stop. I think if we get like a safety car midway through the race, this would not be bad for Campbell Adams at all. But seeing the pace that Dimas already has, I'd be very, very afraid of the Red Bull driver.
What Campbell Adams is doing here is going for the ultimate undercut. The hards will make it to the end. That is obvious, of course. As I said earlier, this circuit not high tyre wear at all. And the hards could go for quite a long way. So what he's doing, boxing early off those softs. I would have maybe extended them maybe an extra lap just to see if he could try clear some of this traffic with the likes of Lighty and Schumer in front of him. But now he's got a bit of open road to push into. This also does free Alexander Dimas. But in all of this, Dimas will have to box much later and will be on worse tyres when he gets that pit window phase. So for Campbell Adams, it's all about this undercut. Menno's also in as well. Not sure if that one's for damage. He is on... No, he's coming in for the undercut too. So very early pit stops here. This is very confusing because not many drivers usually pull the trigger this early in a league race around Monaco. But so far, we've had 3 of them.
I think this is a little bit of a reply to what Campbell Adams is doing, because Exafox knows his fight, at least for now, is with Campbell because he's second in the standings. He won't yet have to worry about Dimas, although after this race that might be different. So he's going to do what is the safest option and just go with the same strategy as Campbell. But he's already 12 seconds down to Campbell Adams after, well, and we're just on lap 5. So that shows that the incidents that were up ahead a little bit, and also the gap that he and Dimas have been able to pull, have put quite the strain on Exafox. And now he has to hope that there will be a safety car in not too long so he can close that gap up once more, because otherwise, for now, and for the time to come, he'll be driving in no man's land. In the meantime, let's go up ahead. Dimas has decided to continue. Alessandro Finn as well. Kai has come in as well. Theo Bulls is now up in P3. He's had quite the race start as well. Let's have a look at the position changes. He's up by 3. Pinto's up by 4. Beisner is up by 5. Langrock and Paulo Afonso are up by 4 as well. Schumer, I should say, is up by 8. And then we have Lighty's up by 6. But there's quite a few drivers behind them that have made their pit stops already. Actually, everyone behind him has made a pit stop so far. Kai coming out not too far behind Menno, but he was also already behind on track. And if we look at the other stats, looks like Joao is getting a lot closer to Beisner, and that's currently for P5.
Yeah, he is getting a lot closer. That's 4 tenths the gap between Joao and Beisner. It does seem that Lucas Beisner hasn't really got too much pace in that Mercedes. He is somewhat of a rolling roadblock at the moment, but around Monaco, that's exactly perfect if you want to keep track position. So as we head into back, of course, no overtaking opportunity will be all the way till Raskas now. You won't go for a move through the swimming pool chicanes. And it's all about this run up into Raskas. Gabriel Pinto now into the pit lane. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Alexander Dimas in within the next few laps. Lucas Beisner now into the pit lane, and he's off those medium tyres as well. That gap between Menno and Adams, 6.7 seconds. That just shows how much of a gap it really is. What's the gap between Campbell Adams? As there's a yellow flag, that's Isaac Lee who's retired. Is that a safety car? That would fall perfectly into Alexander Dimas' hands, but no safety car for Isaac Lee's retirement. Campbell Adams now, though, stuck behind Lighty. So Lighty going to be a bit of a rolling roadblock. I say that. He spins out, and that can now bring out a safety car. It's a virtual safety car, and that can be a blessing in disguise for Teo Boone, Xiao Pina, Alessandro Finn, and Alexander Dimas, as they will save time under the safety car. Go onto those hards as Kai picks up a 10-second time penalty for crashing into Lighty's car, I think. But that is a dream scenario for everybody still in the mediums.
I was so surprised that it was not a full safety car after Isaac Leeds incident. He crashed just out on the exit of the Nouvelle chicane, and that normally is an instant safety car. Dimas now, of course, comes in now under the virtual safety car, and that was brought out by Lighty. How exactly that happened, I'm not too sure about, but we might hear about that later. But this is a clean pit stop for Dimas, as Menno gets a drive-through penalty for speeding on the virtual safety car. That's horrible for him. Meanwhile, the race is back on. Campbell Adams is now on the straight. Dimas is about to exit the pit lane. This is going to be tight on the exit. There's Dimas. Here comes Campbell Adams round the first corner. Will it be ahead or behind? It's actually just behind. And Paulo Afonso also stays just behind Alexander Dimas. So Dimas has gone the overcut work because of that virtual safety car, and he's now in the lead.
Yeah, brilliant safety car timing there for Alexander Dimas. If that was under racing conditions, Dimas would be miles behind Campbell Adams at this point, and even if he stayed out for an extra lap or so, he would still be quite a long way behind and dropping time as we speak. But now they've got an Aston Martin in between the pair of them, and for Alexander Dimas, he wanted to get by. That's the whole reason he stayed out. He needed to get by Campbell Adams if he wanted any chance of holding on to this race victory. But look at Paulo Alfonso really holding up Campbell Adams, and the Williams man surely going to get frustrated at the Aston Martin in front of him, who hasn't made a pit stop compared to him, where he has. So for Alfonso, he really is doing a hold-up game here, and Alexander Dimas will be looking back with a grin on his face, seeing that British racing green car full in his mirrors and keeping Campbell Adams at bay. DRS opens. We now head down the main straight into Sandavot, and once again, the Williams not able to get past the Aston Martin. But for Alexander Dimas, he's streaking further and further clear. He's using this track position to good use. He's got 3.4 between him and Zhao in front of him, so he's going to try to close that gap down, get in front of Yao, and then try to streak off into the distance even more. But look at that, Alfonso really holding up Campbell Adams still as we now head into the hotel hairpin. That gap now around about 2 seconds between Dimas and Campbell Adams.
Yeah, gap's starting to increase more and more as Campbell Adams is awfully close to the back of Paulo Alfonso, and I think he needs to try now. He needs to try now with a bit of ERS. He's going to go and try go down the inside, but he does just opt against it. And he almost has a little bit of a slide on the entrance of the Nouvelle chicane, and now will need to play catch up a little bit more again. Perhaps try again through Rascas or on the main straight. The good news for Campbell Adams is that this time round, Paulo Alfonso won't have any DRS because the gap with Dimas has increased to 2.1 seconds. That's a massive gap also early on, but now Campbell Adams is going to try again with DRS down the inside, and there will be no contest for Paulo Alfonso. Campbell Adams is finally through, but the gap to Dimas now 2.3 seconds, and that is going to be tough to get as Kai picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That's no good news for him, but for Campbell Adams, that early virtual safety car, and now if it was Paulo Alfonso staying ahead, has cost him the connection with Dimas.
It certainly has, but that would have angered Campbell Adams being stuck behind Paulo Alfonso, so he could be a man on a mission over these next few laps and really be hustling that car to catch up to the Red Bull in front of him. 2.1. Now that gap as we exit out of the tunnel. We'll watch him heading into the Nouvelle chicane, really on the limits of the car, locking under braking, still finding time on Dimas. Campbell Adams will be pushing that car as much as he possibly can, using all the tyre he possibly can at this stage, and then maybe back off once he gets within DRS range of Alexander Dimas. But Paulo Alfonso dropping 1.5 seconds back, and we also have a major scrap.
Oh, big crash!
Oh, Lucas Base has crashed. Oh, that is huge on the That's a really odd place to have a crash there. Surprise! That's not a safety car either. That must have been contact. I think it was with... Was it not contact? What happened there?
We were just on board. I just switched to the on board of Giovanni Lanzoni. He had a little bit of wheel spin on exit. Managed to correct it. Didn't do so correctly. Clipped the wall. And then he was out. It was a driver error. Giovanni just saw it happen in front of him. Thankfully, the car ghosted out in time so that Giovanni did not pick up any damage. And for Giovanni's good news, because he was quite a bit quicker than Beisner, so he will now have free track as he has a big slide getting through Mirabeau. But yeah, now P10 for him. 7 seconds the gap to Exafox, so it has quite a bit to still catch up as Paulo Alfonso picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits, and he's out! Paulo Alfonso is out and is at the same corner. 3 drivers have crashed now on the exit of the Nouvelle chicane, and it's still not a safety car. And I know that we shouldn't say it too much. Wait, what is Giovanni Lanzoni doing? He's just stopped on track. He's just...
I have a feeling that might have been a wheel disconnect?
It might be. This is a bizarre race so far.
This race has thrown many a curveball. Is that... Yeah, I think it might have been a wheel disconnect because he's now back in control of that car. So, disappointing there from Lanzoni. He was on the edges of the points. I think he was actually in 10th place after Alfonso crashed. So, unfortunately for Lanzoni, he's not at the minute going to be picking up a point, but still a long way to go in this one. but very confusing situations we've had. In the space of 2 laps, we've had 2 drivers crash at the Nouvelle Chicane. That takes the Nouvelle Chicane's victim count to a total of 5, 2 in qualifying and now 3 in the race. So this just makes the race a little bit more exciting, knowing that the drivers pushing their luck at the Nouvelle Chicane. If someone goes for a move, they could see themselves hitting that wall. And what I was going to say before Baszler's crash is we have an interesting battle on behind Alessandro Finn. Bournes, Pinto and Kai all in a procession behind each other. Kai is just dropping back ever so slightly over the course of this lap. But for Pinto and Bournes, they are squabbling over 4th place. And Alessandro Finn just ahead. This is for the final podium place. They're 4 seconds behind Campbell Adams and an extra 2.7 behind Alexander Dimas. So Campbell Adams really struggling over the course of these last few laps. Has dropped about a second to Dimas in front. Surely this is Dimas's to lose at this point because he's just so far in front. And Campbell Adams, the Australian, heading through Portier. And just like another Australian of Daniel Ricciardo, taking pole, and unfortunate safety car timing might have just ruined his chance of winning the Grand Prix.
Yeah, thankfully for him, there was no issue on the pit stop with the crew, as that it was also what cost Ricciardo the win back then. I believe it was like 2018?
2016 was
16 was even. He got the redemption in 18, right?
Yeah, 18 was redemption.
But I just quickly want to go back to where we've had 3 drivers crash out now, because normally in Nouvelle Chicane, if you crash out there, you either clip the wall on the entrance when you go left into 11, or out on the exit when you make your way towards Tabac. All these drivers have gone through there safely, then had a little bit of a wheel spin for, I'm not sure why, and then they've just lost control of the car and put it in the wall. It's happened to 3 drivers now. I wonder if there's like some invisible bump there in the road or if it's down to tire degradation. But if I look at when the drivers retired, Baszler retired on 3-lap-old hard, so that can't be tire deg. For Lighty was 6-lap-old mediums, seems unlikely. For Paulo Afonso, 10-lap-old hards, that might be a bit more likely. But very uncommon place to crash out. And for 3 drivers to do so in the span of about 10 laps is really, really uncommon. Let's hope this corner 12 does not take any more victims. But it's a very peculiar thing that we're seeing tonight.
It certainly is. I possibly think it could be down to maybe just how they ride the sausage curve a little bit before. Maybe take a bit too much of it, unsettling the car when you get back on the power, and that then sends you into a bit of a half spin. Or they could just be clipping ever so slightly, maybe not enough to have a sudden notice visually, but that outside wall on the exit, that orange marked wall, and sending them round into some spins. So that could be the case where you're just clipping it enough to just dislodge the car's momentum and send you into a bit of a spin. So that they are certainly some contenders for the reasons of these crashes. So now, lap 15 of 39, Campbell Adams falling now down to 3 seconds behind Alexander Dimas, and Alessandro Finn is now getting closer to the Williams driver. So could we see a battle for second place within the next 10 laps or so, with Finn getting closer and closer? Because this could certainly be an entertaining Grand Prix if he is able to do so. As we exit out of the Nouvelle Chicane, the Scarlet Red Ferrari, the Alessandro Finn, I think, started 3rd as well. Yeah, he'll be able to keep his position and be the only driver in this Grand Prix to keep his position in this race if he's able to finish it as it currently stands. So that is also an interesting fact to know, that everybody's either lost or gained a place, except from Alessandro Finn and his Ferrari.
Yeah, we're currently on board with Gabriel Pinto, who's having a stellar race so far. He's getting closer to Bones at certain parts of the track, but as soon as we get towards the tunnel, he suddenly loses a little bit of time and then falls back significantly more, because in the first sector he's actually quite quick. He's starting to close down the gap then a little bit, but now from a bit like the chicane onwards, also through Mirabeau Bas, so lower section of Mirabeau, he's starting to lose more and more time, and that is when the gap does start to increase. We see here lose about half a tenth there. Now on exit does manage to stay a little bit closer, actually putting down the gap a little bit. And now then through the tunnel, the gap stays about 5 tenths, breaking into the Nouvelle chicane. Does so quite nicely, almost clips the wall on exit. But here on the exit, he loses about a tenth and a half. And that's where the gap really does increase too much. And that is why, at least for now, he's been unable to overtake Theobald's up ahead. In the meantime, a driver who has been able to overtake into the Nouvelle chicane, actually, is Joao Piana onto Menno de Bever. And he moves up in 8th.
Well, that was actually a really nice move there from Zhao, unconventionally on the outside line of the Nouvelle chicane on entry. So for Zhao, that was a really nice move. He's dropped down 12 seconds behind Exafox, who currently sits in 7th place. And for Zhao, it was not the greatest of scenarios for him, because unfortunately he did disconnect from the lobby when his car came into the pit lane. So maybe just wanted to stay out a little bit longer. But that can easily be clawed back over the course of the next 20 laps. Still a long way to go in this Grand Prix at this stage. We'll be thinking, at most tracks, we'll be thinking of finishing off the Grand Prix, those final few stages. But here this evening, this is only the halfway point. It's very, very scrappy from Exafox out of Portier, the championship leader, struggling with some rear grip, and that could be oh so costly as well. Another thing to note maybe here, Myth, could there be a chance of rain threatening this circuit? I know the drivers came in early as a routine pit stop, you would think, but the track is getting very overcast, and rain, of course, not too surprising around Monaco, and certainly could throw up a bit of a surprise, and maybe could just dislodge Campbell Adams and Alexander Dimas's performance so far.
It might do so. I'm currently trying to see if we can get a little bit of a view of the skies. Now with Exafox we can see it, and it indeed looks very overcast. I don't see any clouds appearing up ahead, but maybe with the early pit stops, that could be a sign that the drivers know a bit more about it, although I haven't seen any of the retirees mentioning that there would have been rain later down the line, as Exafox is a big moment through Mirabeau Holt when he gets through turn 5. So manages to keep it on track, but he's starting to struggle more and more with that grip. Already on 13 lap old hards, and still has 21 laps to go on them if he is going to continue and finish the race on them. But the clouds do seem to be starting to appear more and more. And I think your theory, Max, is not too much of a wild one. Maybe we will see race later down the line, but I think that Alexander Dimas is not going to be too happy about that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too happy about that at all as we're heading into Saint-Devote, and with Campbell Adams, and yeah, that could really throw up some surprises. And for Dimas, he would not like that at all, as we're now heading in to Mirabeau with the race leader, of course, looking to get into the championship fight fully, and a race win here this evening will certainly put him at the top places of the standings. He's currently, as a matter of fact, only a total of 16 points behind. So he'll need Exafox not to score to match the championship leader. But with Campbell Adams scoring a good chunk of points, he will take the championship lead with Dimas in around about 3rd place come the end of this evening. So Dimas really putting himself in that fight. Of course, last season, we saw him not take a win at all. We saw him as an early contender for a championship. So if he's able to win here this evening, Alexander Dimas will be thoroughly pleased, and it'll be the first win in F4 over the past 2 seasons. And what a way to do it here at the Principality, and what a drive so far from him. So we're now on lap 20 of 39. We have 20 laps to go here in Monaco, and the drivers will start feeling a little bit tired in the arms, a little bit tired mentally as well, picking out all these braking zones. And for the drivers that may be in clean air, like Dimas, like Campbell Adams, it may be starting to become a little bit boring and have a bit of mental fatigue come into play.
Yeah, and when we start to talk about mental fatigue, it looked like Gabriel Pintos lost a bit of time, and Exafox is out! Your championship leader retires at the exit of Casino, and he is now out. Now, we had a virtual safety car before, but once more, there's no safety car. The game just refuses to have any safety cars, but we probably should have had 3 or 4 already. So that helps Dimas a lot in front. But Exafox, your championship leader, out of the race, and that means great news for Dimas and Campbell Adams, who are currently 1st and 2nd out on the grid. And they're looking to take big, but there's a yellow flag that I think is it Langrock? It's Lanzoni, I think. Was that Lanzoni or Langrock?
No, it was Langrock.
It was
Langrock in the
Langrock.
Alpine.
So he's had a bit of a moment, and looks like his front wing end plates are still fine, but big moment by Dennis Langrock.
Big moment for Dennis Langrock and big moment for the championship as well. Exafox out here in Monaco. And this really does open the door for Campbell Adams and Alexander Dimas. I did say just before that, Dimas would need Exafox not to score if he wants to go level 1 points with him this evening. A lap later, Exafox crashes out in Massenet. Terribly sorry for the commentator's curse there, Exafox. But another twist in the championship tail, and this would allow Campbell Adams to get a real healthy point score over his championship rival if he's able to pull it off here this evening. Of course, still a long way to go. He could make a mistake himself, could the Williams driver in this Grand Prix. So, for Campbell Adams, it's now just keep the car on the road. That is the main target. Keep the car on the road, stay in second place, and you will take the championship lead. Of course, he would love to take his first victory of the season, but as long as he's able to just nurse that car around and make sure he's able to keep those points that are absolutely valuable, that could be the difference between him winning the title and him losing it and crashing out in this Grand Prix. So, now, this really does change the whole momentum of things. Of course, it moves the drivers that were outside the points up a further place, but it really does open the eyes for the top two to really start their championship charge. And I did say if Campbell Adams was able to take the championship lead into Silverstone, it'll be a brilliant momentum bounce for him, and he can move that forward into the remaining rounds of the season. Alessandro Finn still keeping tailballs at bay. He's dropped Gabriel Pinto behind, who's now under pressure from Kai heading in to the Nouvelle Chicane. So we could actually see the McLaren make a move within the next few laps or so on the Haas, when we thought it could have been the Haas on the Kick-Sauber in front. But Teo also looking very racy and could also try and get by Alessandro Finn. So they're two developing stories over the next few laps. We'll have to keep an eye on how they do, especially through the tight and twisty first sector on the next lap.
We will have to see how they do indeed. But another thing that we should mention now that Exafox has retired, we also have some extra points handed out, one for pole position and one for the fastest lap in the race. We know that Campbell Adams took pole, so he already has one extra point in the back. But if Alexander Dimas manages to get the race win and fastest lap, he will leapfrog Exafox in the standings by just a point after the end of round 6. As in the meantime, Kai is getting closer and closer to the back of the Haas, Gabriel Pinto, who's currently in P5. He has a little bit of a moment, both of them actually, through the hairpin. Now then, through 7 and 8. Through Poitiers into the tunnel, but Kai seems to be a little bit too far back. That's 3.5 tenths. He is using a little bit of overtake to start to try and get a bit nearer, but breaking into the Nouvelle Chicane does do that a little bit better than Pinto up ahead, but doesn't gain all too much time. And I think Pinto used a little bit of ERS on exit there, as Kai opts to use a little bit less there to none at all. As now through the swimming pool chicane, through Raskas they go, but through Raskas, Kai actually gets really close to the back of that Haas, but in your one and only DRS zone, he's still half a tenth away, he's still too far away, and there will be no charge to be made for him. So position stay put for now, as Gottschalk gets a 3-second time penalty for track limits. We actually have 5 drivers now that have got penalties to their name. For Kai, it's 13 seconds even, because of the contact that he made with the DNF car of Lighty, so he might be able to get that removed post-race. For the other drivers, for Theo Bones, Joao Piana, Daniel Gottschalk, and Giovanni Lanzoni, it's all 3 seconds, as we just saw Kai overshoot a little bit into the Grand Hotel hairpin.
Yeah, Kai might not even need to get that removed, because of course, with how the gap he has over Joao Piana behind, if he's able to extend that out to 13 seconds, no real point to get it removed, because of course he won't jump tailbones anyway, because they've both got 3-second time penalties to boot. So as we now head through to back and into the swimming pool section once more, the McLaren still over the back of the Haas in front of him, but not able to make any progress on him at all. So now up into Anthony Nose and trying to get the power down as quickly as they possibly can. The McLaren driver trying his best to get close enough to the Haas. But again, with that DRS assistance down that main straight, it doesn't make much of an impact due to how short it is. And for Kai, he's still having to sit behind. And this is going to get more and more frustrating for him to be sitting behind him into this top part of the circuit, up the hill. As you head straight back down it, Kai gonna need to just try and chip away at that gap. But Teo Bournes as well, now dropping 1.9 behind Alessandro Finn. That gap is falling down between him and Pinto. So maybe Teo just taking too much out of the tyres, maybe overheating them slightly. And this is now putting him under pressure, not only by one car, but two.
Yeah, I'm currently trying to see if I can communicate with the drivers if there is any rain forecast with any of the retirees. So we know if there's anything coming or if the drivers are just going to stay out and keep it as is, as we're now on lap 25. And Lightyear's just confirmed there was no rain forecast, while Alfonso confirms that as well. So that might mean that we, well, likely does mean that we will keep it dry and that we won't have to worry about that whatsoever. In the meantime, Gabriel Pinto is actually getting closer to the back of Teo Bournes, who has dropped back significantly behind Alessandro Finn. That gap was just about a second. Now it's 2.4, and that puts Pinto in a position to get back onto fourth. But I'm seeing something very cool here, Max. Your top 7, all different constructors.
Yes, they are. Dimas in the Red Bull, Williams for Campbell Adams, Ferrari for Alessandro Finn, Teo Bournes in the Kick Sauber, Haas for Pinto, McLaren for Guy, and then V-Carb for João Pinhaya. But this squabbling between Pinto, Bournes and Kai has now unleashed Alessandro Finn. That gap now 3 seconds. Has Bournes got any front wing damage maybe? Or at least a slight part of front wing damage? Because that pace drop-off is absolutely immense. And that has really hurt not only his race, but Gabriel Pinto and Kai's as well. Because, of course, they're stuck behind him so far. And even with that front wing damage, you're able to hold up the rest of the field behind. So now heading into Raskas, yellow flag. I think that's for Lanzoni there. Or, actually, no, I think it might have been Gottschalk because Lanzoni didn't get by. So it could have been Daniel Gottschalk who made that mistake at the hotel hairpin. But once again, back with Pinto and Teo Bournes. Pinto still stuck behind the Kick Sauber. I want to quickly study Teo heading into the top of the circuit. But no, it doesn't seem like any front wing damage, just a sheer drop off of pace. And that really has unleashed Alessandro Finn and really has stopped any chance of a podium battle so far in this race from really brewing.
Yeah, so we have to hope and see if Gabriel can get past Teo to see if he can start to close the gap onto Alessandro Finn. Maybe there's some invisible damage going on, damage that we can't see, but Teo can definitely feel because that drop in pace was quite significant. He's losing. Oh, he's got a time penalty again for cutting the corner. That's 6 seconds now to his name, and that will not only put Gabriel Pinto ahead of him, but also Kai after the race does finish and all penalties are applied. So he will lose 2 positions as it stands instead of just 1 as he goes very wide through the Raskas. But he keeps enough of a gap heading on to the start-finish straight onto Pinto so that Pinto can't really mount a charge. So that's looking good for him. In the meantime, further up ahead, if we take a look at Campbell Adams, he's starting to get a little bit closer onto Dimas again. He noticed Finn was getting closer. He picked up the pace a bit. And now that gap has shrunk by a couple of tenths. So he's starting to get closer to Dimas, but the gap's still 3.2 seconds. There's actually a car in between. That is Adam Schummer, who will be lapped. That might also explain why Dimas has lost a couple of tenths.
Yeah, it certainly could explain why he has dropped a bit of time, but still not going to be too worried. He's still got a 3.3 second gap over Campbell Adams. There's a yellow flag, and that is the
Dovsan.
Dovsan. So those two at the back having a Titanic scrap between Dovsan and Shimmer. And Dovsan's done a really good job on those medium tyres so far. 24 laps on them in this Grand Prix, and he comes into the pit lane now as I compliment how long he takes those tyres. So Teo Bournes getting very hot into Raskas. This could be Pinto's opportunity. Get a good run out of here. Use that battery into Sanderpot. We could see Pinto through late on the brakes. But no, just unfortunately, Pinto is having to stay behind Theo Bulnes, heading up into Massenet once more, and the Hash driver will just be growing more and more frustrated, seeing the Unleashed written on the back of that Kick Sauber, and will want to put it in his wing mirrors, but unfortunately not able to do so at the minute. And Alessandro Finn's not really making any inroads like we saw him do earlier on Campbell Adams. So this battle for 4th place really is what we're seeing at the moment, but all of this holding up that Theo Bulnes is doing is letting Yao get closer and closer to the back of this train. And Yao really needs to put some pressure on the cars in front, especially Kai and Pinto. So we'll now see if he's able to get close enough by the end of this Grand Prix. 10 laps to go once we cross the line, and that gap 5.9 between Yao and Kai.
Yeah, so we've just been on board with Pinto for a while, where we at times think we might see something happen, as it's a very wide move through Raskas, and now Gabriel Pinto is close. The gap is 3/10. He needs to try and do it now. He's using all the ERS he can muster, but defensive ERS deployed by Theo Bulnes, and once again Gabriel Pinto is unable to get by, and gives us a little bit of time to look at our race leader, Alexander Dimas, who's been managing the race nicely. He keeps that gap to about 3.5 seconds, has gained a couple of tenths in the previous lap onto Campbell Adams, but he is just driving stellar so far, as we still have 10 laps to go. We're at lap 30 of 39, with Dimas in the lead, Campbell Adams in second, and Alessandro Finn still about 2.8 seconds away from Campbell Adams, not getting much closer either. Further down behind, we have a bit of a fight starting to emerge for P10 with Lanzoni and Gottschalk. It looks like Lanzoni's quite a bit bigger, as Pinto now picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That could be great news for Kai later down the line. For Bulnes, not so much, because Bulnes has got 2 of those penalties to his name. But I think for the moment of now, as I almost wanted to hop to the fight with Pinto and Bulnes again, I think we should be keeping an eye on the fight for P10 with Gottschalk and Giovanni Lanzoni, because Lanzoni is knocking on that Mercedes door.
He certainly is, so Lanzoni going to be looking to at least get a point in this Grand Prix, and he'll try to do so at the earliest convenience possible. So now, heading through the Nouvelle Chicane, he's just not going to be close enough, of course, for a move into Raskas, you would think, unless he gets a monstrous final sector here, and he is getting closer through Swimming Pool. Closer and closer he goes. Can he go for a lunge? No, not close enough to get to the inside, but he will have the DRS. Heading out into Sandoval. This is over the final points-paying position. Giovanni Lanzoni will use the DRS. Will he use any battery? No. And heading up into Sandoval, does go for a look. Gottschalk, though, able to hold on, but the battery being used now by Lanzoni. Got to look for a move into Massenet. He's going to try sneak his car to that inside line, and that, unfortunately, for Lanzoni is a move that's not being able to be made. But look at that gap now in the space of 2 laps. João Piena has now gained a total of 2 seconds on the cars in front. Theo Bulnes runs wide into Raskas. Pinto try going to the inside to Anthony Nose. Backs out of it, but he's seeing the driver in front of him crumble under the pressure. But due to this track being so tight, he's not able to get by. And that is so frustrating. When you're behind a car like that, you know you have the pace to get by. Here comes Kai looking into Massenet, not able to pull that one off. But it's so frustrating seeing the car in front of you make these mistakes and you're not able to capitalise on it because it's at the part of the circuit where an overtaking move isn't really possible.
Yeah, that makes it interesting for us, as we have to watch 2 fights going on there. The fight for P4 with Theo Bulnes, Gabriel Pinto and Kai, with João Piana starting to get closer to it as well, so we might see him join in a couple of laps time. And then we have another fight further down the wire between Gottschalk and Lanzoni. That gap only 2 tenths, as they're now heading up the hill towards Massenet and through the Beau Rivage. But Bulnes really under pressure here. He's pulling a little bit of a gap here again, entering the first bit of the final sector. But we see him overshoot occasionally through Raskas, allowing Pinto to get much closer, but he doesn't make the mistake now. The gap now stays at a nice half a second, and that seems to be enough, at least for a time being, but he has dropped back significantly behind Alessandro Finn. That gap now 6.2 seconds seems to be insurmountable for now. As we go further down back, we see Gottschalk still fighting with Lanzoni. Lanzoni wants to get closer, and I think at one point, Maxwell, we're going to see an overtake. It will be here, because Lanzoni is very close. He wants to try and get it done by Raskas, but he will need to brake early. Maybe a better exit here. He's almost alongside him, entering Anthony Noj, but the exit is not as good as what Gottschalk was able to muster, and he will stay behind at the start of lap 33. Oh, that's a big slide! Lanzoni keeps it, and Gottschalk loses a front wing end plate. Both drivers making a mistake at the start of lap 33.
That was two huge mistakes, and unfortunately, Gottschalk came off worse from those two drivers squabbling at the back end of this field, and this is really going to invite Lanzoni into a position-making move. Look how deep Gottschalk's going on the brake. That's just a lack of downforce that the Mercedes has as we now enter through Lower Mirabeau. A move into Portier maybe on. Of course, we saw Pascal Wehrlein and Jenson Button making contact there in 2017, sending Wehrlein over, up on his side and into the wall, but luckily for Lanzoni, he decided to back out that one. Gottschalk really late on the brakes, really kicking the back end of the car out as we now head into back. This is really where the front wing damage for Gottschalk will affect him through this chicane section over the sausage curb, and that's now given Lanzoni some damage. Gottschalk going slow into the second part of the swimming pool chicane, and that has now picked up the Williams with some front wing damage as well to boot. So both cars wounded in this battle. DRS open now for Lanzoni. He's going to be a little bit angry after what Gottschalk did, looking to that inside again, not able to put it off. Though.
He's missing both front wing end plates. He also lost one on the exit of Anthony Noj. He lost... No, he actually... Wait, he only lost it there? I saw front wing end plate flying there.
No, he's still got the pair of them, so maybe that was one that was just lying on the circuit from a previous car. That might have picked some up.
He's just got one left indeed. Will make it a little bit more difficult for him to pass Gottschalk, although I'm pretty sure he will have an inquiry with the stewards there, because on the exit of the swimming pool chicane, that little moment from Gottschalk, it was very, very close with Lanzoni and the wall, had to back out of it, did pick up front wing damage as a result, and won't be too happy about that. In the meantime, Gabriel Pinto really all over the place off Theo Bulls. He sends it down the inside, but will have to back out of it. He's still there. Maybe now, switch back. He's gonna try, go wide, then switch back. He's still behind Theo Bones, but Gabriel Pinto wants to get by fast and wants to get by now. But also here on exit, he is still too far back. That is 4/10s. He's using not all that much of ERS either to try and get the overtake done, but looks like Bones is starting to struggle more and more and more, and at some point Pinto will need to come through, because Joao Piana only 1.7 away from this group.
Yeah, Joao getting closer and closer to the back of Pinto, Kai and Bones, and he could certainly make his way through the scraps if any contact is made. Once these drivers cross the line, it will be 4 laps to go for them, and it's a bit of lag actually. That's allowing Pinto to go through Theo, heading into Saint-Devot. Disaster for Theo Bones, a little bit of lag. I think that was a whole lobby lag spike there. And that has just gifted Gabriel Pinto 4th place, and he'll be grinning in that Haas. He knows he's finally got that move done. He can push forward now, break that gap to the Sauber in front, or maybe just make Theo Bones' life a bit more miserable, knowing he can't catch up to Alessandro Finn, so he might just hold up the kick Sauber and really make Theo Bones' life an utter living hell and back him up into Kai and Joao Piana. So we now head down into the Nouvelle chicane. Lanzoni and Gottschalk's battle still raging on as they head into Saint-Devot. Lanzoni still behind the Mercedes driver, but this is a good run out of Saint-Devot. Can he get close enough up into Massenet? No, just having to sit behind once more. So for Lanzoni, more struggles for him in this battle with the Mercedes driver, but Theo Bones still over the back of Gabriel Pinto as we head into Rasgas, and now it's going to be this exit out of Antonios. We know he's strong out of here, doesn't seem to be strong enough though, and Kai can now maybe make an effect on the kick Sauber, but you can't count out Joao either. He's been so much quicker than these drivers over the past few laps, and he could certainly go for an overtake within the final lap or so. As we're heading up into Massenet once more, Kai getting closer to the Sauber of Theo, who's really starting to struggle on those hards.
Yeah, we're still watching the onboard of Giovanni Lanzoni, who's getting very close to Gottschalk. Got a little bit of moment on the exit of the Nouvelle Chicane. That gap now down to a little over a tenth. Now then, through the swimming pool section, take it better, and you might have a move. Lanzoni, oh, he's touched! He's made contact with Gottschalk, who just manages to save it. It doesn't result in any more damage, but that at least throws the opportunity that Lanzoni had to go for the overtake out of the window. So he won't be able to get past, at least for the time being, so we'll have to wait another few laps. As further up ahead, we saw Pinto get by Bulnes. That gap now almost increased to about a second, but look at that. Joao Piana is now within 4/10 of Kai. He joins that train, but now the bigger question, can he get past? Because that is no easy feat, although the drivers up ahead, especially Kai, is starting to struggle a little bit with those rear tires.
Yes, they certainly are starting to struggle with that rear grip. So, for the likes of Joao Piana, this could be a time to strike. Time to get your way up through those drivers, get your way up through the order. Of course, you'll gain a place on Teo, because Teo has 6 seconds of time penalties. I'll quickly run you through those here. So it's 3 seconds for Pinto, 6 seconds for Teo. Of course, Kai with those 13, he'll probably get 10 of those removed. So him versus Zhao really is for position here, is for 6th and 7th currently. Then you've got Zhao on 3, and then Gottschalk and Lanzoni on 3 as well. So they're the penalties. Not too many for the drivers here this evening, and that is really what is going to be make or break in this Grand Prix. Teo's going to drop down behind Kai and Zhao. He might even drop down behind Menno, depending on how his final lap goes. But talking about the final lap, we're about to start it now. The top two's gap down to 2.6. Gap between second and third, 1.9. No one's going to get close enough for a race-defining move here on the final lap. But talking about race-defining moments, that virtual safety car really is one of them. And the man that capitalised the most on it is the man leading your Grand Prix, Alexander Dimas, the nearly man here in F4, heading through the Lowe's hairpin. He's got so close throughout the past 2 seasons of picking up a victory. He nearly won in Spain and unfortunately made a mistake up in turn 4, I think it was last season. He got some pole in Australia, wasn't able to convert that into the race win, was only able to get as high as 3rd. But now heading through the Nouvelle Chicane at the circuit where it probably will mean the most. 1/3 of the Triple Crown, of course, this circuit is, and arguably the hardest race to win here in F4 and any tier of PSGL. Heading into Rascasse now, the nearly man is going to be the main man here in the streets of Monaco, and Alexander Dimas is heading up to the line to win here in F4. He can add a win to his tally here in PSGL F4. It's a royal drive from a special driver indeed. It's taking him so long, but now he has that win under his belt. That confidence is going to be streaming off Alexander Dimas. Campbell Adams takes your championship lead and finishes in 2nd. Alessandro Finn is 3rd. Pinto finishes 4th, followed by Joao Piana 5th. Bulnes 6th. Kai did drop down behind Menno, of course, with that penalty, but will be able to surely get that removed. But what a drive from Alexander Dimas. The race-defining moment was that virtual safety car, and he was able to capitalise and use that to good effect, not faltering under any kind of pressure at all.
No, he just drove the pretty much perfect race. He drove his own race, had some great pace on those mediums, putting Campbell Adams into the call of switching to those hards also early. He's driven 36 laps on those hards, but has managed to make it stick and complete the race in 2nd, actually cutting down a little bit of time in the final few laps. But I think for Dimas, those final few laps, or take it back a little bit, you want to survive here, you want to get the race win, and for Dimas, this also means 1st win of the season, but that means 6 races down, and 6 different race winners. That is also quite the feat, and that shows how closely matched all these drivers are. And with the standings as they are now, Exafox, for the first time this season, is going to lose his lead in the standings to Campbell Adams, and Dimas will be equal to him if he doesn't have fastest lap. No, it's actually fastest lap for Campbell Adams, so Campbell Adams gets yet another point as a result of that. So Dimas wins the race here tonight, 16 points for him. Then it's Campbell Adams who picks up 14 with fastest lap and the pole position. Then it's Finn with 10 in third place, followed by Gabriel Pinto. Stellar race from him. João Piana, 5th place. Great result with Wolns coming through in 6th. Menno's second race, he picks up points in 7th. For Kai, it's only 8th, but might get a position back after a penalty gets removed, and if that happens, might get a place onto Bones as well. Langrock is in 9th. Gottschalk, your final point scorer, in 10th. That will be to the heartbreak of Giovanni Lanzoni, who was quicker but couldn't get by in 11th. And then we have Dolph Zan in 12th. 13th, it's for Adam Schumer. And then our retirees, Exafox, Paulo Afonso, Lucas Beisner, Lighty, and Isaac Leet. But Max, wow. We've had quite the race, and especially at the start, a lot of incidents, but I'm still shocked that despite those accidents being quite severe, we didn't get a safety car.
Yeah, that was quite surprising, actually, not picking up a full course safety car at the very least. And as I said, as I said before the stream started, well, at the start of the stream, if we didn't get a full course, I would say props to the drivers. And here we are. Props to the drivers. Only a virtual safety car. I feel like we should have got a safety car for some of those incidents. But still, very much fair play to the drivers involved this evening. And yeah, a very eventful Grand Prix. I think we got a deserved victor out of that one as well. Dimas just showing so much more pace than anybody else in the field. And yeah, really capitalised when he needed to the most. And this brings his championship challenge really alive. Shouldn't be too far behind Campbell Adams at the end of this, after this evening, but still, Campbell Adams now takes the championship lead. Dimas and Exafox will be tied on points, and 2 extra points for Campbell Adams as well for the fastest lap, and also the pole position as well.
Yeah, so the gap between Dimas and Campbell Adams was 7 points heading into this race. Dimas will get 2 more with that race win, so he will be 5 points behind Campbell Adams. And Campbell Adams will be 5 points ahead as well of Exafox. So Exafox with that poor result, as we already mentioned, losing the championship lead for the first time. Next week though in Silverstone we have a little bit more of a normal track with the walls not being as close. Perhaps will suit him better, but he will need to refine that form that he's had in the first few races. And with round 3 and 4 with the win taken away with penalties, should be able to get back up on that top step, because if he can't get back into that consistency, he might drop out of that championship fight early. For Lighty, he could have made a big jump as well. He retired, so he won't move back in. And for Kai, will still pick up some points and get still within the fight, but it looks like it is now starting to emerge that we have 4 championship competitors, at least for the time being, in the names of Exafox, Campbell Adams, Kai, and Alexander Dimas. Maybe some other drivers will put themselves in the mix, but for now, it looks like between those 4 drivers, a champion will be crowned at the end of January.
Yeah, it does seem certainly so that those drivers will be the ones that could be the main 4 heading into the final rounds of the season. And that is going to be something very, very interesting to watch. Of course, Dimas, with this charge through Monaco to get himself those points. He started off strongly with a 3rd in Australia and a 2nd in Belgium, the 2 races he took part in. And then wasn't the greatest at Qatar the week before. And now here in Monaco, claims that top step to make it 6 different winners. And could this first race win really be what he needed? That is what really plagued him last season. He just didn't have that composure when he was at the front. Now he's got that race win. Has that somewhat settled the nerves? And is this the main opportunity to take that F4 championship? But he still has some very, very worthy foes against him. And especially Exafox, who started this season off so strongly. I mean, he won in Belgium as well, I think, and also in Canada. And of course, those penalties really did hinder him massively. So if he was able to keep that penalty free, he could have a massive championship lead at the moment. So we can't rule out Exafox either after 2 poor races. There is still plenty of play for. We'll have 5 rounds to go when we... 6 rounds to go when we head to Silverstone next week. and it's certainly going to be a very, very chaotic and eventful end to this season.
Yeah, so we're now at the halfway mark. I was just going to say that we might hear from Dimas himself. He joined the waiting room to be moved for an interview a moment ago, but he's moved out of it again. So I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing him. We'll wait a minute or two before closing off the stream to see if any of the drivers are still going to move in, because we do have time for our top 3 to come by for an interview. So that will be for Dimas, that will be for Campbell Adams, and also Alessandro Finn, who have the opportunity to just speak with us and with you guys in the chat a little bit to give their thoughts on how the qualifying and that race went, and also their thoughts on the virtual safety car and the perhaps should have been safety cars that we didn't get down the line. But we've got a lot of exciting things still coming up ahead. Let's actually put the calendar on the screen. I don't have a calendar overlay. I should get that fixed. But actually, when we look at the standings, then we can see the tracks as well. So I'll put the standings up for you so you can have a little look. Next week, we move out to Silverstone. Then it's on to the Grand Prix of the Netherlands in Zandvoort. Then we move on to Jeddah for the Saudi Grand Prix. Then it's Japan. Then I believe we have Vegas once more, isn't it?
Yes, it is Vegas.
And then it's Bahrain for the season finale.
Yes, it is a very eventful season coming up. Some brilliant tracks to end it off, especially as we've got next week at Silverstone. We've got Myth's debut at a home race. He's never actually casted the Netherlands before, so that is going to be an interesting one for you, Myth, to finally get that home race experience to commentate on. But I mean, I feel like the rest of this season, it's just great track after great track that provides brilliant action. And I mean, Saudi last year, I think, actually brought us one of our closest finishes in F4 last season. I think it was actually the closest finish in F4 last season, and yeah, hoping for the same again, maybe.
Yeah, Saudi's always good with the many DRS zones, but I'm really looking forward to my first cast on Zandvoort, and it's going to be interesting to see how all the other commentators are going to struggle with the Dutch corner names. That will perhaps be a little bit easier for myself, but should be interesting. But of course, more about that in 2 weeks. We will first have Silverstone, the track that should always be on the calendar, and that we have this season out there as well. Of course, already in season 38 here at PSGL. That season will end at the end of January, before we're going to have, I think, one more season before the game cycle is going to end. But we've had quite a few things going on. We've had a change in championship leader after tonight, but perhaps next week that pendulum or coin might swing the other way once more, because we have a close fight with Exafox, with Campbell Adams, and now also Alexander Dimas. And I think on that note, we will end it for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next week when we enter Silverstone. See you then.